for him to be in that weight class. They need to calibrate them scales. We don't know how he makes that weight, all stuff. There is some kind of trickery going on in boxing that nobody wants to talk about.
Who he had beaten once before in a controversial fight where Tszyu was bleeding very badly. And before he fought him in a rematch, Tszyu had been knocked out. So he beats Tszyu, and then he beats, Thurman, who's been very inactive, moved up in weight, and was a huge underdog for those reasons.
Do you want to be undisputed, or what's your ultimate goal in the ring?
There was an idea of becoming undisputed at one time, but as of right now, it's so much politics. Look with the WBO. I was already unified champion, but all these things that don't line up with us, you can't. It's a business as well. So if you're not gonna work with me, I can't work.
Boxing insiders have accused Sebastian Fundora of using questionable tactics in his fight against Keith Thurman. Rolando Romero also weighed in, claiming Fundora doesn't belong in the division and hinting at hidden tricks in boxing that few openly discuss, fueling major controversy.
About the sustained beatings that he passes out. When he fights, it's the way he gets on top of people and just the body just destroys him.
Man, he over there trying to chop every head off. I'm telling you like this, man. I sit there, man, I just look, I'm like, there's no way. Like, you gotta go over there and just like, boom, right on the top like that, right? Hope for the best,
A fan on X criticized Fundora, calling him an unfair cheat code and questioning whether someone with his height should compete at 154 pounds. Thurman's facial damage further sparked suspicion, with some fans even speculating about glove tampering. Despite the injuries, Thurman reportedly disagreed with the referee's stoppage.
He's a volume puncher, and I think it's just that little bit of a press that he was putting on that let that referee feel the way that he felt to jump in. But he was pressing, he was opening up, he was starting to go wide, and that's where the veteran has an opportunity to shine. I'm telling you, man, the fans were loving it, the action was getting real, there was no need to just stop it right then and right there, but once again, I'm not that beat up. I can fight more, and we'll see what happens, man. But it was a good fight. I wanted a great fight, and I think if it went just a few more minutes, something great would happen. Or maybe I would have got dropped.
Reports suggest Fundora has avoided chasing undisputed status, believing other sanctioning bodies wouldn't back him the way the WBC does, leading him to prioritize their support over broader title ambitions.
I'm comfy with the WBC. I still think I'm recognized as the best. I think I'm the...
Another fan fired off harsh criticism online, accusing Fundora of hiding behind a calm persona while allegedly benefiting from unfair advantages. Fundora, however, credits his performance to months of relentless preparation, saying he's been grinding in camp since August.
Happy with my performance, of course. I think it was a great performance. Just a lot of training in this camp. We've been training for him since August of last year. So, it was unfortunate that we couldn't fight in October, but we stayed training. We stayed getting ready for this former Hall of Famer, and showed tonight. I take my hat off to Keith. Of course, he's a great former champion. Like I said, a future Hall of Famer for sure. But no, we trained very hard for this fight, and we made sure that we crossed our T's and dotted our I's, so that performance from him wouldn't be nothing crazy for us to handle. I'm very comfortable with the WBC. I've been saying this over and over again. I'll fight these guys. I'll unify with these guys.
Trainer Bernie the Boxer criticized the matchup, arguing Fundora had better options and deliberately chose Thurman, knowing the stylistic and physical advantages were too overwhelming.
Battered, bruised, didn't knock him down, but did everything else. Man, talk to us about the matchup.
Keith Thurman had a hill to climb. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing with Fundora. And man, that layoff didn't help him. Man,
like I was just telling my boy Ramon, I was thinking he should have fought old boy first, should have fought Charlo first. I would like to see that first, maybe scrap the whole thing. You know, they tried to make this thing twice and it didn't go. So I think they Fundora should have been held up. He should have been put with somebody else, even though I think he hurt himself the second time. So the first time Keith Thurman hurt himself, and then the second time, boom, and then old boy hurt himself. But it was a good fight, man. Keith Thurman, he showed his heart, he showed his guts. You know what I'm saying? He landed some shots in between, and you know, but they didn't face for.
Cheating allegations aren't new for Fundora. Teddy Atlas pointed back to his fight with Tim Sayo, where Sayo suffered a severe cut and vision issues, again raising questions among fans about tactics and equipment.
But before we go too crazy, remember the guys that he's beaten recently. He beat Costas, he beat, what's his name, Zoo. He beat Zoo, who he had beaten once before in a controversial fight where Zoo was bleeding very badly. And before he fought him in a rematch, Zoo had been knocked out. So he beats Zoo, and then he beats, you know, Thurman, who's been very inactive, moved up in weight, and was a huge underdog for those reasons. So let him beat somebody maybe a little bit of a higher level of thought before.
Jose Benavidez Sr. criticized the matchup as well, highlighting Fundora's youth and massive height advantage while pointing out Thurman's inactivity and decline as key concerns.
He kind of knew that, you know, Fundora super young right now, super tall, and Keith Thurman, you know, at the end of the day, you know, he was a great fighter, he was a good fighter, but he had a lot of tough fights, but, you know, I thought Keith was going to give him a little bit of trouble, you know, and take him to deep waters and test him a little bit. But, you know, when Fundora threw the right hand the first time, he kind of got him, and, you know, that's when I'm like, oh, man, you know, Fundora, I think it's too much for him. Fundora looked really good. He used his distance, his body shots, and straight punches and everything. I think, in my opinion, he looked really good. And Keith Thurman, you know, he tried. And it was a great stoppage, in my opinion. You know, it's good. You know, when they stopped the fight and I saw his face, I was like, damn, you know, it was a good stop.
Fans online labeled the fight a mismatch, with criticism growing louder after the result. Meanwhile, Chris Algieri analyzed the bout, praising Fundora's ability to land short uppercuts from long range, calling him a dangerous and unusual puzzle. He noted Thurman's decline, slower movement, and inability to deal with Fundora's reach, while also highlighting Fundora's evolution from an awkward fighter into a more composed and effective one behind his jab.
Rear uppercut from long range, he throws a lead uppercut from mid-range. So he's a wildly dangerous puzzle to figure out. And Keith had no answer. And I guess in hindsight, that's probably not that surprising. Keith was not a 54-pounder. But yeah, it was underwhelming, I should say.
I expected a little more from Keith. Talks the big game. You know, had that illustrious run at 147, but ultimately, like I said, Father Time over one time. Father Time gets everybody. He just looks slow. The legs weren't there, and also you're fighting a guy like you said with the 80-inch reach, and is also knows how to use it now. That's what we're seeing from Fundora. Is first couple fights of his.
Algieri added that while Fundora looked dominant, Thurman's poor performance made it hard to fully judge. He emphasized that Fundora, now entering his prime, needs to face elite opponents like Virgil Ortiz Jr. or Jaron Ennis to truly prove his level.
Second Zoo fight is where I think now Fundora can settle in now, and this is like what he's going to be. He's going to be a guy that pumps his jab. He's going to be a guy that throws power shots and lands power shots. I mean, his jab was really impressive. He threw 44 jabs per round in this fight. We're talking about a guy that never used to throw the jab. We always wondered, why does he fight on the inside when he has a bajillion-inch reach advantage over his opponents? But he's now settling in, and he started with the jab, and then he didn't even get out of first gear. Like, did you see? I didn't see Fundora exert any extra energy in this fight. He stuck behind his jab and threw short, concise power shots and just kept finding a home for them until the fight was ultimately stopped. I think Fundora is really coming into his own, but we gotta see him now.
Winky Wright broke down the fight, explaining that Fundora's constant pressure drained Thurman early. Thurman's movement, meant to create openings, instead exhausted him, allowing Fundora to control the pace and dominate.
It's part of the game, you know. Fundora's a tough person to fight, tall, rangy, you know, tough, and he threw a lot of punches. And Keith had a little long layoff, and no excuse, man. He's just a tough fighter. He's just tough to beat, and then Keith had to do what he had to do. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think was there any adjustments you feel that were lacking in there?
Yeah, it was. I think he was doing too much movement. That's what got him kind of tired with his legs, and then he couldn't do the things that he wanted to do. But you know, Fundora was just trying to put the pressure on him. And like I said, it's been a while for Keith fighting, and then fighting somebody at that size. This is difficult. People can say what they want. You can do this, you can do that, but you never fight nobody 6'6", 80-inch reach, you know.
Thurman had spent years chasing big fights, including a long-awaited clash with Tim Sayo, but injuries repeatedly derailed his plans. When he finally faced Fundora, he struggled from the start to adjust to the height and reach. In the second round, a clean left hand from Fundora visibly hurt Thurman, setting the tone for a one-sided contest.
Australia to fight on a no-limit card to hopefully do enough to secure that Tszyu fight eventually, but that would never materialize, and instead Thurman would end up finding himself fighting Fundora. Thurman was given the opportunity he's been chasing for years, and Fundora was given the big name he's been chasing also. So what ended up going down? Well, in the opening rounds, Thurman was clearly just trying to figure out how to approach Fundora. The reach, the height, it's something almost impossible to replicate in sparring. So the first couple rounds was really Fundora pushing the pace, whilst Thurman was trying different things just to see if he could even land anything. And in round 2, Fundora threw probably the best shot of the fight, a well-timed left hand which buckled Thurman's knees. But Thurman would see out the round, but from this point on, Fundora was almost in complete control. Thurman really...
Analyst Liam Goff reflected on Thurman's career, recalling his peak as a unified welterweight champion with wins over Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. However, long periods of inactivity and injuries stalled his momentum, leading to a decline that became evident in this fight.
It was just one-way traffic from here on out. There was almost nothing coming back from Thurman, and his face showed the story of the fight. And in the next round, this pressure kept going. Fundora kept laying it on, pushing Thurman onto the back foot, which caused the referee to step in to stop the fight. He saw too much. Although Thurman was still moving, he wasn't really throwing anything back, and he was copping too much damage. It was common sense why the ref stepped in to stop it. But with this win, Fundora has cemented himself as one of the toughest champs at 154. The Fundora we saw against Mendoza is dead. He now really knows how to use his advantages beautifully. He didn't give Thurman space to breathe. He controlled that distance, laid it on him.
Goff admitted it's tough watching Thurman now, given how great he once was. He also noted Fundora's growth, evolving from an awkward prospect into a serious contender, marking a clear contrast between Thurman's decline and Fundora's rise at 154 pounds.
He was one time, he then turned into run time, as many people called him, but he still had really fun fights, like his fight against Sean Porter in the Barclays Centre back in 2016, 10 years ago now. That was a great fight. It was competitive, it was close, but it was action from start to finish. It was brilliant. He then goes and he fights Danny Garcia. And that wasn't as fun, but it was still a good fight. And it was still Danny Garcia. I think Danny Garcia was still, peak Danny Garcia at the time. It wasn't that long removed from the Amir Khan fight, about 5 years, but it's still reasonably good Danny Garcia. And you're thinking, right, Keith Thurman, the world's at your feet right now. You're unified champion at 147 pounds. Floyd Mayweather was getting ready to fight McGregor. You could be saying right now that he's gone, I'm the guy, this, that, and the other. You had Kell Brook with you. So many things going. So many good options, so many good opportunities. And he sits out well over a year. In fact, he sits out the whole of 2018, and that was March 2017, such as that. He sits out the whole of 2017, the whole of 2018, comes back against Josecito Lopez in January. I think it was Josecito Lopez anyway. In January 2019, doesn't look good in that fight, and then loses to Manny Pacquiao. Spends 3 years nearly out of the ring. Fights Mario Barrios, and wins that. then has another, 3 years of inactivity to then fight Brock Javez, a guy who had previously lost at 140 pounds, and I think he'd fought even lighter than that, to now getting this fight with Sebastian Fundora. I have described the last 7 years of Keith Thurman's career like that, because there's been so little to talk about. I don't understand it. I don't get where the inactivity came from. I don't get the reason behind it. I don't get that he takes these like 2-year breaks, comes back, has one fight, and then waits another 2 years. And
That's it for today's breakdown. Stay tuned for more updates and analysis in the boxing world. Like it, comment it, subscribe to Fight Vault Boxing Glove.